I think I'm live, hopefully. Yes, I think we're live. I never know with YouTube Live. 'Cause I do for the geeks amongst you who are watching this, I'm sure there's lots of you like me who take an interest in this thing. I use StreamYard for this. So StreamYard is a streaming platform, as the name suggests, and basically you connect StreamYard to YouTube, and then all I see is StreamYard. I don't see YouTube. So when it says live on here, I always worry there's a bit of a delay. I always worry there's gonna be like 10 seconds delay, and if I start talking when this goes out as a regular YouTube video, which happens a few hours later, once it's finished, it's gonna kind of start halfway through a conversation. So anyway, it looks like we are live because people are coming in. Hello, Mike. Hello, Kevin. Calling in from Lakeland, Florida. I'm not jealous. Although, actually, what is it? It's 25 degrees. We do Celsius in the UK, if that's confusing. But it's 25 degrees over here, and it's really nice. Although I've been sat in this studio for most of the day, so I've missed most of it, but I'll be experiencing it after this. Anyway, I hope you're well. Thank you for joining me live if you are. If you're joining this in the future and watching it as a regular video, again, hello. As always, I'll do my little sales pitch, which is make sure you check out the Substack newsletter link in the description below. And if you like this video, if you enjoy it, give it the thumbs up, which always helps the channel, and consider giving it a subscribe as well, because again, that helps the channel and all that stuff. So that's the waffle over with. As always, I would love to take some questions at the end of this. It's all sounding a bit formal, isn't it? It's like some sort of work presentation. It's not. After I've kind of waffled on about YouTube and stuff, but in fact, it's not about YouTube today. It's about something else, which I'll come on to. But after I've done my bit, I would love to have some questions from you about anything. I always have to say, let's try and keep the tech questions to a minimum, because this isn't the Mark Ellis Reviews channel. This is Solo Club, and I like to try and keep it creator/YouTube behind the scenes focused. But you can ask me personal questions within reason, obviously, if you want to as well, because it's Friday and you might get some interesting answers out of me. Anyway, the first thing I want to talk. Oh, Rob's on. Hello, Rob. Rob, you're late. You weren't the first person. It's normally just me and you for the first 3 minutes. Rob's saying, "Why have you got 2 logo overlays?" Have I? I've only got one here. Top right and bottom right. I can't see the second one. What is the second logo, Rob? Is it 2 Solo Club? You're in the lobby. Okay, I'll let you off. It's fine. I can only see one logo up here, which is the Solo Club one. But you're saying there's one down here. All I can see down here is a Sonos. Yeah, that okay. I know what you mean. Yeah, that is the. I don't see that, but that's the regular YouTube logo. Yeah, I'd be worried there. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is Twitter. And not for the reason that you might think, because obviously picking this week to talk about Twitter is slightly strategic from an SEO point of view, obviously. But not, yeah, like I say, not for the reason you might think, which I would guess would be the introduction of Threads, and hopefully someone can help me here, because I've been so busy this week. One, I've not signed up to Threads. And the reason there's 2 reasons I've not signed up to Threads. One of them I need help with. The first one is I just can't be bothered. There's just way too many social networks, which is what I'll come on to in a moment. And secondly, I don't know, is it even available in the UK? This is how little I know about Threads and how little I've kept up with it. I think it's technically illegal in the EU, but because we're not in the EU anymore. I don't know, Rob, can we sign up to Threads in the UK? Is it available to us mere mortals in Britain? Probably not. But anyway, they're the 2 reasons I haven't signed up. One, I don't think I can, and 2, I just can't be bothered. I'm going to go off on a tangent now, I think. There are so many social networks, which if this isn't your job, so if you do something completely different for a living to what I do, which is creating content, then it's not really a big deal. You can have a play around with them. You can dive into Mastodon and the 8 million other Twitter refugee camps that are out there. I mean that in the nicest possible way, by the way. You can try out Threads. You can bounce between Facebook, and you can try Instagram. And you can try, what was the other one called? Vero, was it? You can try all these things. It doesn't really matter. Oh, we can sign up, apparently. Okay, well, I still don't want to. But anyway, you can sign up to all this stuff, and you can try it out and stick with what you want, or if you want, just have a flip between them. And I totally get that. And in a way, I envy that because I can't really do that. I treat all of these social networks as basically marketing channels. That's exactly what they are for me. My main one is YouTube, obviously, but I also have Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, and those four are really, really important. Um, Anything beyond that has to compete for my attention and, more importantly, my time. And there's just so many. Like I say, I signed up for Vero. I keep wanting to call it Vera, which is not what it's called at all. Fairly sure it was Vero, whatever it was. Is the one that Peter McKinnon talked about, which was the alternative to Instagram, which millions of people signed up to as soon as he just said the word. And now I don't know if it's still there or if people are using it. I did that. I signed up once Peter McKinnon mentioned it, because I'd probably jump off a cliff if he told me to. And I got bored of it fairly quickly because it was just more work. I signed up to Mastodon, and I totally understand why people are going to those sort of decentralized networks. Totally get why. But again, I used it a little bit, and then, to be completely honest, forgot it was on my phone, because I have my focus, which is, like I say, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. They're my five. Is that 4 or 5? Whatever it is. They are my main avenues to get out there and spread my influence and content. So, like I say, a new one has to really, really work. So this wasn't the topic of the conversation today, really, but I just wanted to have a bit of a moan about that because there are just too many. But moving on to Twitter, I have significantly changed my Twitter strategy twice this year, and I wanted to kind of explain very quickly why and the reasons behind this shift. So originally, when I first created the Twitter account for Mark Ellis Reviews, it was a place to meet fellow tech people, and I never really viewed it as a way to bring in a big audience into the brand. It was much more a case of connecting with like-minded people within this niche and who've been doing this for longer than me, that I can kind of get friendly with. And it's worked brilliantly in that respect. I've made some very good friends through Twitter, and we have a really good laugh on there. And equally, we have a very good kind of camaraderie, and it's just a great platform to share stuff on, really. So I did that for the first couple of years. Well, probably the first 3 years, really, of this business. And then at the start of this year, obviously, I started Solo Club, this channel, and I thought, right, let's use Twitter in a different way. Let's use it like everyone seems to be doing, to draw in a bigger audience for something else, which was Solo Club. So the idea was that I would use Twitter and kind of use my persona. I hate this word, but my persona as a content creator to spread my influence and knowledge and all that good stuff on Twitter, rather than talking about tech and all that stuff. And I really went for it. So this was back in probably April time, March, April. I started using a service called Tweet Hunter, which is basically a Twitter client, which lets you very quickly schedule loads of content. It's got AI built into it, so you can quickly generate ideas and that sort of stuff. You can very quickly create threads, which was the main focus of this strategy, really. I did that, really went hard at it for a good nearly 2 months, I think. Saw some growth, saw some dips. I lost quite a few followers to begin with because of that switch from talking about tech to talking about this sort of stuff, behind the scenes YouTube and content creation. But then I did see quite a nice period of growth, which suggested that what I was doing was working. And what I was doing was every single day publishing 1 or 2 threads and quite a few tweets. So it was a lot of content I was batch creating, and I was writing this stuff from scratch, with a bit of AI assistance for idea generation and that sort of thing. But it was me sitting there on the laptop with a coffee, writing this stuff out. And I did it, like I say, for those 2 months, and I got to a stage where I genuinely couldn't be bothered to carry on doing it. And that has never happened with everything else that I do with this business. So whether it be making YouTube videos or writing blog posts or doing this stuff, doing these lives, I've never got to a stage where I've thought, I just can't be bothered with this. I feel like I'm regurgitating stuff that everyone else has done. And that was the problem, really. When I looked at what I was doing with these tweet threads, which was talking about do these 10 things to make sure that your YouTube channel grows within the next 18 months, all that sort of stuff, 10 ways that I went from 0 to 10,000 subscribers. And it was all genuine stuff. It was stuff that I'd learned, and it was, I wasn't just stealing ideas from other people, but invariably, because so many people are doing this, you kind of are stealing, really, because everyone's said it already. It's just you're just regurgitating the same advice. And it does, like I said, it was working. It was building an audience, and it was creating some really interesting engagement and reach. But I was just so bored of it after a couple of months. And I think I realized that sometimes, even if something is working, if you don't, this is a really important lesson for this kind of work. If even if it's working and you can see a way of making it work on a fairly decent scale, but you're not enjoying it, and you feel like you're almost doing the audience a disservice by just regurgitating stuff that other people have said, it's okay to stop. You don't have, just because it's working, or seems to be working, you don't have to carry on. There's no need to do that. So I stopped. I went cold turkey, literally just stopped, got rid of Tweet Hunter, cancelled the subscription to that, and went back to what I was doing previously. So went back to being the tech person on Twitter, and immediately enjoyed it more. Immediately, I wasn't doing any tweet threads anymore. I was sharing some content that I'd been publishing on YouTube, but I wasn't doing those long-winded tweet threads that were bringing in this different audience. And I've not been any happier since, really. It's been great. So it wasn't wasted time at all. It was definitely an experiment worth undertaking. But the reasons I stopped it, apart from the fact that I wasn't enjoying it, there was a few. The first one was time. It was taking me so much time to write those tweet threads. I basically batched the time throughout the week, so I'd spend, normally it would be one day where I'd do a whole bunch of them for the next week or so. Although occasionally I'd kind of spread that out across a few mornings. But it was taking a lot of time, and it was taking me away from doing other things, which didn't seem to be sensible for me at all. The other reason was, as I mentioned, I felt like I was just repurposing everyone else's content. There's only so many times, or there's only so many ways to explain how you think someone can grow on YouTube, or how to create the perfect YouTube video. It's that age-old thing. There's only 7 songs. There's only 7 of everything. My mum always taught me, which I know I've said a lot on these live streams, but it's true. So you're just doing the same stuff as everyone else, really. The other thing is that I'm not convinced of their value to the business, even though I was growing that audience quite, not massively, but there was definitely an upward trend. And like I say, engagement metrics were all kind of starting to point upwards. I wasn't convinced about the value that it had for this business, because the people who are really successful at Twitter, the people who mainly just do Twitter to grow their email lists and drive digital product sales and that kind of stuff, they already have massive audiences. So people like Justin Welsh, and there's loads of these people. If they'll peddle the whole Twitter thread thing again and again and again, and say that anyone can do it. If I can do it, I started off with 0 followers, and if I can do it, everyone can do it. Well, that's true, but you've also got 1 million followers now, and if you post a tweet thread, it gets seen by 250,000 people almost within 5 minutes. That's a hell of a mountain to climb from 0. And crucially, they started it from 0 at just the right time. I'm fairly sure that starting from 0 now and doing this tweet thread thing isn't the best strategy at all. So for the value to me, to my business, was questionable, I think. It would have taken me a long time to see any meaningful benefit in terms of inbound, I wouldn't say leads, but inbound audience members for Solo Club. I think it would have taken quite a while. So that was the main reasons, really. And like I say, it's just a classic example of, if something isn't working, stop it, even if you think there's an opportunity there. Because if you're not, sorry, let me rephrase that. If something is working, if something seems to be growing, but you're not enjoying it, it's okay to stop. It really is, particularly if it's your own business and it's your own thing that you're doing, because you can stop it. It's up to you. No one has told you to do that thing. And if you're not if it's not something you look forward to each week, get shot of it. So that was a really big lesson for me. But that was my little Twitter story. So Twitter for me now is just the avenue. It's just a channel to meet other tech people really, and learn stuff. And I learned quite a lot from Twitter. There's lots of people who are doing those tweet threads, but in my industry, which I do find interesting. But equally, people just you get a lot of honesty on Twitter. I find it in the tech reviewer community, which is really refreshing and just a very nice thing. So that was my Twitter thing. And no, I haven't. Like I said, I haven't signed up to Threads. Who on here has signed up? We've only got 5 people on this live at the moment, but I might have to pick a different time to do these, I think, guys, because I've had bigger audiences when I've done it at different timings. So I'd like to know actually in the comments. Let me know when the best time is for you. I know you're all joining from various different places in the world, US, obviously UK. But yeah, it's I'd love to know what timing is best. But yeah, just out of interest, who on of the 4 people now on this live, who has signed up to Threads and what do you think? Let me know in the comments. But like Rob says, it's getting silly. There's Twitter, but I forgot about Blue Sky, Mastodon, Threads, Substack Notes. That's another one. So Substack Notes is, if you weren't aware, I use Substack, as you may know, for the newsletter for the Solo Club, and it's brilliant for that. It's a fantastic newsletter platform. That's where it started its life, really. That's where it's at its best. But a couple of months ago, they introduced a thing called Notes, which is Twitter, basically. There's no getting away from it. It is just Twitter in Substack. There's not really anything unique about it, I don't think. And the reason Substack brought that in was because they wanted to have firstly, they wanted a Twitter competitor. Let's not beat around the bush. But also, they kind of played that it was also, or suggested rather, that it's also a way for creators on Substack to meet other creators and benefit from growing through their networks and that sort of thing. Not convinced that works really, but yeah, that's another one. So it's just crazy. So Andy's saying UK evenings, UK weekday evenings. Oh, so you're in Abu Dhabi. I remember you saying before, actually, Mike. Yeah, I think the most attended live stream I've done so far was on a Saturday morning in the UK, which I think it was about 10 o'clock UK time, which really surprised me. We're getting more people on there. It's so hard to work out when to do it. Regular YouTube videos, it doesn't matter quite so much. There's normally a good window to post them in. Most of mine go out at 3 o'clock UK time, which seems to work quite well. But it doesn't matter too much. Whereas with lives, because my lives anyway, I want them to be very interactive. It's good to have a decent number of people in the room, as they say. So I want to try and get as many in as possible. Equally, it's early days for Solo Club. So you guys are like the founding members. You're the OGs, which means you'll be cast in stone forever, long after I've gone. That's how important you are. Anyway, guys, I need to have a drink of water, although a beer would be nice at the moment. What else can I tell you about? Firstly, hit me with some questions. Ask me anything. If you want to ask me tech questions, just go for it. Who cares? Yeah, it's Friday. Let's disband that rule for now. I can tell you briefly about what I'm doing next week, because that is all related to this creator thing. So next week I'm going to the Lake District in the UK, obviously. If you're not aware of that, it's very far north of where I am, just beneath Scotland, and it's a really stunning place. It's kind of our version of the Rockies. It's nothing like the Rockies at all. It's very different. It's smaller, obviously, but for us, it's big. It's epic, and I go there every year, every February anyway, for a hiking kind of weekend with my brother-in-law and some other guys. But I'm going there on my own next week for a review of something which I can't mention. It's over. No, it's not. It's over there. I can't say what it is. It's from a very big brand who I've started working with, and they've trusted me enough to give me a product on embargo, under embargo rather, which doesn't come out until next month. And I thought, what can I do with it? I know, I'll take it to the Lake District and do something with it there. So I'm going up on Monday and stopping until Wednesday when I come back. And on the Wednesday, this always happens, but on the Wednesday, I know this is annoying, but I've got another big brand that I'm speaking to on Wednesday at 4 o'clock, which is about another product which is under embargo, which I can't talk about, but it's a really big brand that have organised it and organised the press briefing. So I've got to somehow fit that in on the way back from the Lake District, which will be interesting. But the time in the lakes will be a case of me doing that thing that I did in New York, where I'm walking around vlogging, really, doing a vlog style review of something. And I love doing these videos. They're very hard to arrange and organize. There's lots of stuff going on behind the scenes to get them going. And I always have that thing whenever I do them. Whenever I do the actual filming of it, I always worry that, one, I've not got enough footage. That's always a constant worry. And two, I worry that the entire thing is just a mess in terms of the narrative. And, even though I work from a very, structured list of things that I want to talk about, even I've ticked them all off, I always end the day thinking, that's just a mess. That's going to be horrendous to edit. And every single time, it's not. Once you get it into Final Cut Pro and start editing it, it works. So again, a great piece of advice there is that don't worry as you're filming. As long as you shoot as much as you can and you have a checklist of things that you want to go through. If you're doing these vlog style videos, I made a video about this recently actually on here. If you want to do that kind of vlog style video making, just have that list of things to go through, but don't sweat it. Don't worry, because I can guarantee you'll get it back, you'll start editing it, and that is literally, I know it's a cliche, that is literally where the magic happens. So that's what I'm doing next week, which is all very exciting. Right, we've got questions coming in, so I'm going to stop waffling and answer some questions. Let's have a look. Santos. Hi, Santos. How was your New York trip? That's very convenient because I was just talking about it. It was brilliant. I already missed the place. I really fell in love with it, which I thought might happen. It was one of those bucket list cities that I wanted to visit. And I loved it. Everything about it. Again, it was a very busy trip because I was creating content while I was there. So although I did all the sightseeing, I combined sightseeing with work actually, which, and again, it's the best form of work ever. I'm not complaining, but it's not quite the same as going with your family or your loved one and spending that time purely focused on being a tourist and taking it all in. So it won't be the last time I go at all. I'll be going back with my girlfriend and taking my son one day as well. But I just loved it. It was what a city, just incredible. Andy, new drone. So you're referring to the embargoed product for next week? No, it's not a new drone. That would be pretty cool, though, wouldn't it? No, the drone. The drone definitely will come with me. I've got a DJI Mini 3 Pro that I use for drone stuff. I will bring that with me, but it's not a drone. No, I have to be so careful not to let the cat out of the bag with this. Johan, I just landed my first sponsorship deal for my podcast and I'm planning lots of new content for my YouTube channel. That's not a question, but it doesn't matter. That's awesome news. What a result, Johan. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, by the way. That first sponsorship deal that you get is epic, and the good thing is everyone after that is epic as well. You will get some occasionally which you kind of question, and you might get them wrong. You might work with the wrong brand. I've done it several times. I still make that mistake occasionally, but yeah, getting that first one on the board is just brilliant. And it doesn't really matter what you've charged. Hopefully you've got enough that you're comfortable with and kind of covers your time nicely, and hopefully makes the podcast profitable. But even if it doesn't, don't sweat it, because you've got someone paying you for content, which is a massive hurdle to get over. It's the one thing that anyone who goes into this stuff has questions about and is worried about and wonders how on earth you get paid to do things in this game. But you've done it, so that's amazing. Long may it continue for you. Rob. So you'll be back from the lakes by Thursday. Carl will be serving Nothing Beer, 5.1%, at the Nothing Phone 2 launch event, if that helps. It is on my mind, Rob. So Rob's referring here to the Nothing Phone launch, the Nothing Phone 2 launch in London next week. I didn't realise he was serving. Nothing Beer. Have we talked about this before? Perhaps I think you may have mentioned it. I didn't realise it was 5.1% though, which is pretty gnarly. Will I make? I don't know. Will I make it? I don't know. I'm not that happy with Nothing because there's radio silence with them when it comes to working with them, which is a bit annoying. But there you go. Mike, where's the desk? Desk is here, I promise. I'm just using a slightly different lens today, so you can't see the bottom of it. we've got issues, guys, with the framing still, I'm afraid. Part of the reason for that today is that I've had the entire desk lowered and everything moved out of the way for some B-roll filming for something else. So I had to very quickly put everything back in place. But I'm not going to lower this camera because I can guarantee this is going to be. Should we test? Let's test it. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. Ready? Is it out of line? Ooh, that's not bad. If anyone's just joining this, they're going to leave very quickly, aren't they? It's not always like this, by the way. It's much more interesting than normally. That isn't bad, is it? That's all right. Let's get the camera back where it was. We're kind of level there. I'm impressed. Mike, have you thought any more about releasing your Notion template? Oh yeah, absolutely. It's going to happen. It's just time, really, Mike. It's finding the time to do it. This framing's wrong there. It's just finding the time to get that Notion template produced and distributed, really. I know how to do all that, obviously, but it's just time, really. I may have to bring someone in to help me with that, but yeah, it's going to happen, and I've got big plans around that in terms of sharing the engine room behind this, because I've got Notion sitting over here, actually. Funnily enough, it's helping prompt me today on some of the stuff I'm talking about. But that's the point, really. Without it, I'd be lost. So I know there's a lot of value there to other people. My guess, I think, Mike, is that probably later this year it's going to, in fact, definitely later this year. Let's say Q4 to be safe. That's when it's probably going to arrive. Okay, guys, any more questions? Let me have a slurp of coffee. Mike, for the Mark Ellis Academy under alumni pricing rather, does lifetime access to all future Mark Ellis Academy courses mean full real-time live access to all future courses? Yes, it does. Yeah. So if you go for the alumni membership, you're a member for life, basically. I can't guarantee how many cohorts there will be in the future. There's no guarantee they're going to carry on forever. But whenever there is one, you're in, basically. I think there's a note in there about events as well. And again, I've got no events planned, but I do have big plans for Solo Club. And one day I will hopefully have in-person events and that sort of stuff. And if you're an alumni member, you stay an alumni member for the rest of your life. So yeah, it's just as it says, basically. What other questions have we got here? Let's have a look. Johan says, learned a lot from these lives and videos that helped me get the deal done. I'm humbled by that, actually, Johan. If I helped in any small way, that's amazing. But yeah, like I say, I mean, can you say who the sponsor is, or is it embargoed? Is it all under wraps and don't say anything if you think it might jeopardize it. But yeah, if you can tell us, that'd be great. Mike, what resolution / frame FPS do you film in, 4K 30 or 4K 60? Neither of those, actually. Although I've done a couple of videos in 4K 60, only because I forgot to change the camera back from that to what I normally shoot in. I shoot in 4K 24. God knows what this probably isn't 4K 24, because I know that the camera does lots of auto stuff when you plug it in as a webcam. But for my YouTube video, every video you see from me basically is shot in 24 frames a second. The reason I shoot in 24 frames a second is because I really like that kind of cinematic look it gives it. You can't really spot that when it's just A-roll talking to the camera, but when I'm doing B-roll shots of products, you can spot that 24 frames a second, which is not quite as smooth as 60 frames. I know in tech it's a bit of a most people in tech review videos will shoot in 30 or 60. 60 is quite common because it looks very smooth, very high end, and all that sort of thing. I just like that movie-ish look to it. It's just something about 24 frames a second I just like. It's very much a personal thing. The reason that, again, this is another very much getting into the weeds with this, but the reason I've stuck with that for so long as well, and the reason it was so annoying to accidentally shoot 2 or 3 videos at 60 frames a second, is that I do a lot of referencing of old content. So if I'm reviewing, let's say I do an updated video on the iPad mini next week, I may want, in fact, I definitely will pick some of the old video. I'll dig into my archives basically and pick out some of the old iPad mini videos I've got, just to save me having to do more B-roll. So I pull them out of the archives and stick them into the project and take the bits of B-roll that I've already shot months or years ago. The problem with that is that if you're editing, it's certainly in Final Cut Pro, if you're editing a video in 24 frames a second and you drag in a 60 frames per second video, things can get really messy in terms of frame rates. And that's basically, if you bring that 60 frame per second footage into a 24 frame per second timeline, it won't look right. It will look a bit strange. So if you, but my advice is pick a frame rate and stick with it, because it changes more of the production process than you might think. And equally, it's a signature of your channel, actually. So if I started filming everything in 60 frames a second, my YouTube channel, well, both of them, would look different, particularly Mark Ellis Reviews. And interestingly, when I did accidentally shoot everything in 60 frames per second for a couple of videos, people noticed straight away. People were saying things like, "This looks different. Have you got a new camera?" And and that does matter. I think it's important to find what works, find what you like personally, and just leave it. Leave those settings. The settings on my FX3 camera never change. They're just left as they are all the time. They've been like that for the last 3 years. And it makes all the difference, I think. Andy, I know you repurpose content across your platforms, but how do you keep coming up with stories and subjects, especially when the tech world is between releases? So in terms of videos, if tech's gone a bit quiet, which it does, and it has done on several occasions this year, what can often there's two things that fill the gap with that. One of them is sponsored videos. So if a brand comes to me and says, "Look, can you do a dedicated sponsored review of this pair of AR glasses?" I'm doing that next week, interestingly. That's not under wraps either. That is just a nice way to fill up the content calendar and make some money from it. Making no bones about that whatsoever. The other way to do it, and the one that I prefer, although it doesn't make you as much money, is to just start talking about stuff you've already got. So the more you create content, the more videos you make, and the more your audience grows, the more you get to understand what they like. And I know that my audience loves the Mac Mini. They love the MacBook Air. They love the iPad, and certainly the iPad over the last few months has really picked up for me. They love the iPhone 13 mini, which is starting to wane now, really, in terms of interest. And they love headphones. So I've got, 5 or 6 categories there of product that I can still create videos on. And it doesn't matter that I've already created, 16 videos about the Mac Mini. I can do another one tomorrow if I want to. That there'll be something I can talk about, whether it be furthering the music production thing, or doing a 3-year later update on the I was going to say the M1 Mac Mini. I don't have that anymore, but you get the point. I can basically stretch out a piece of content, stretch out a product across lots of content. It's not easy. I mean, I'm saying this as though it's incredibly easy just to come up with those ideas. It's not at all. And you can come up, if you rush it, you can come up with some very bad ideas and just, again, regurgitate stuff you've already done, which isn't a great idea. It needs to be fresh, really. It needs to be a fresh take on that thing. It needs to be relevant. It might need to tie in with something that's been released that relates to it. But again, it's not easy. I appreciate that. The ability for me to do this just does come from years and years of creating content, not just for this business, but also my previous business. And I just know what works. Sometimes I get it wrong, 100%. That some videos like that don't work. But on the whole, I know there's a batch of products that I can always pretty much rely on to perform well for me. There's always something you can talk about. Well, I've seen a few YouTubers who have started in tech YouTube, and I've heard them occasionally say, "I can't think what to make a video about this week." And I just think you shouldn't be doing this. To be completely blunt, if you can't think of a video to make this week, and you're on the verge of giving up and thinking, "I'll wait until the week after," you probably shouldn't be doing this. To be successful at YouTube, or as a blogger, or as a TikTok creator, or an Instagram influencer, whatever it might be that you want to do, you have to be adept at coming up with content all the time, literally all the time. If I said to you now, what video are you going to make tomorrow, you should fairly quickly have an idea. Even if it's just a very rough, back of the fag packet idea of what it is, you should know pretty quickly. Again, it comes with practice, but that was a long way of answering that question. I hope that helped. Alan's making a cup of tea and joining now. No sugar for me, Alan. What other question? Have I missed any questions here? Rob. Is there a strategic strategic reason you don't promote Patreon more on YouTube? A lot of creators have a rolling credit slide at the end to draw attention to it. Um, I, it's not really strategic. It's just I don't want to ram it down the throat of my audience too much because I think Patreon represents your most loyal audience members, the people who have a real affinity with you, and to the point where they won't only give you their email address, they'll give you some money each month as well. And of all the things that I do, it's the thing that amazes me the most. It humbles me the most that people will do that. Um, so I don't want to push that too much because I know that the conversion rate for that is absolutely tiny. And for me, Patreon is more of it's not a big money maker at all, but it is a representation of, like I say, the absolute core part of my audience, the diehards who will, like I say, for whatever reason, give me an amount of money each month for some extra bits and pieces and access to the Discord server. But I suppose strategically, to answer this strategically, no, that's wrong. Strategically, the reason for this, I suppose, is because I want to keep people on YouTube. So the main call to action for pretty much every video that I publish is watch this next video, or while you're watching this one, I made a video about this. Check the link out above. That keeps people on YouTube, and YouTube wants that. So I tend to let people find the Patreon stuff if they look hard enough, because if they do want to help me out and become a member of that community, they'll probably go as far as looking for it. So the rolling credits slide at the end, I think personally, I don't agree with that. I think have a very clear single call to action at the end of the video, which is watch this next video. Because at that point, if you've got if someone's watched that entire 8, 10, 12-minute video, got right to the end, you've got a chance to send them down a rabbit hole of your content and have a proper binge session on your channel, which is much more valuable, honestly, than a Patreon membership. As much as I want Patreon memberships, for that Patreon membership to grow, I need a much bigger YouTube audience. So I want to keep people on. I hope that made sense, but it's a very good question. Is this a question that I missed here from Johan? I can't at the moment, but it's in the accounting. Okay, so this was your sponsor, Johan. So it's in the accounting software market. You run a group of accounting firms and have been podcasting in the industry for the last year, which has led to this. Amazing. So I mean, that's a good example, really, of how much work goes into getting your first sponsor. I don't know how many podcasts you published in that year, Johan, but it's a year of work to get a sponsor. I don't know if it's a single sponsor or an ongoing sponsor, but regardless of that, it's taking you 12 months to get there. So that's a great example. And also getting a podcast sponsor, as Rob knows, Rob is my podcast co-host, by the way, on 8 or 16, is incredibly difficult. I don't proactively look for them for 8 or 16, but they don't come to you. I've not seen any inquiries for it. So to get that, Johan, is fantastic. That's the win of the day, I think, isn't it? Have we got any other questions, guys? Anything related to Twitter? That stuff that I was talking about earlier. I did ask the question earlier, didn't I? About Threads. How many people on here have joined Threads? And I don't think anyone's answered, which suggests possibly that none of you have. Should I join Threads? Should I bother? I can't be bothered. Anyway, Mike, have you got to the point where you need to focus on highest revenue generating work videos first? If so, was there a tipping point when you needed to prioritize this? That's a really good question, and it's one of the hardest things that you have to get your head around once things really start to pick up and this YouTube thing becomes a proper thing, which is the balance between what I call growth content and sponsored content. So sponsored content kind of falls in line with what you said, Mike, that those videos are definitely the highest earners because you have a fixed fee up front from the sponsor. But you then also have on top of that any AdSense revenue that you generate from YouTube and potentially affiliate revenue from the sponsor. A lot of the sponsorships will have both a fixed fee and an affiliate contract with them, so you make money per sale. And equally, all of your affiliate links in your Amazon links and stuff in the description might get hit as well in a good way. So those videos have lots of earning potential. Growth videos are the videos that aren't sponsored, but typically have much bigger audiences. So it might be, for instance, a review of the iPhone 14, and let's say that it's not sponsored, for instance, although I think mine was, but let's just say it wasn't. That video is going to do very well, 100% for me. An iPhone 14, say an iPhone 15 Pro Max review will perform really well, but if it's not sponsored, it won't earn as much money as a sponsored video, but it does grow the audience and people will enjoy it more because there's no sponsor. Let's not beat around the bush. So those videos are more important. And I very much try, it's difficult, but I try to apply the 80-20 rule, where you have growth content beating sponsored content. And when I say sponsored, this is where the lines start to blur a little bit, because again, this happens as your channel gets bigger. That 20% of sponsored content I tend to think of as dedicated videos. So for instance, the AR glasses video that I'm publishing next week is a dedicated video. That won't perform very well, I don't think. It may do okay, who knows, but it probably won't. I'm going into it thinking this won't perform very well, but I've been paid for it. So it keeps the lights on and makes sure I can pay the rent for this place each month. Those videos I want to keep to a minimum as much as possible. The growth videos, like I say, as your channel gets bigger, some of those growth videos will be sponsored, but they'll be sponsored with integrations, which are a different thing really to dedicated videos. And hopefully they'll be very kind of natural. Again, using the iPhone review video as an example, a case manufacturer might sponsor that video. That's a very natural ad integration. It's very simple to get it into there. The audience isn't too annoyed about it because it's very relevant. It may indeed help them. So that's the nice thing about your channel as it grows. Those growth content videos can still be sponsored, but they are the ones that are the most important because they grow your audience. Those dedicated sponsored videos do not grow your audience at all. If anything, they can damage it. They can remove subscribers more so than the other ones. So, have I answered that question? I went down all sorts of cul-de-sacs there, but when was the tipping point? So like I said, I don't prioritize the highest earning videos. If I did that, my audience wouldn't grow as quickly as it does. So I prioritize the other way around, if that makes sense. And the tipping point, there wasn't one really. It's just a natural thing you kind of learn as you get into this more. Mike hasn't joined Threads. Johan's joined Threads. Alan hasn't joined Threads. Maybe join to secure your domain name. That's Alan says. You're right. You're completely right. And this goes back to the. I think I don't know if you missed this at the start, Alan, but this is what annoys me about having all these social networks is that even if you can't be bothered to join them, when it is your business, when content is your thing, and you have a, for want of a better phrase, personal brand, you do need to grab your username. And you saying that has just made me think I probably do need to do that. And I can guarantee after this live, I will probably go onto my phone and sign up to Threads just to do that. But that annoys me that I feel I have to do that. It really annoys me. There's just too many of them. There's too many social networks. I don't know where will this end? I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but if you use Twitter and then Threads comes along, what do you do? Do you use both? Do you post the exact same content on both? Or do you have another strategy for Threads versus, I'm talking professionally here really for someone like me. Do you have a different strategy for Threads compared to Twitter? And when do you post all this content? When do you find time to do all this stuff? It's exhausting, honestly. I know all these platforms have to compete, but why do we need 18 different Twitter competitors? It makes no sense to me at all. Off the soapbox. Mike, which aspect ratio do you film in? 16:9 or 4:3? 16:9. I don't know if many people shoot in 4:3, do they these days? Yeah, it's all in 16:9. I think some people do 16:10 and stuff like that on YouTube, but I keep everything very simple, really, really simple. Where are we? 44 minutes. Any other questions, guys? I'll put this on the screen. Rob says Riverside hinted they might sponsor 8 or 16 that time. Yeah, Riverside is a podcasting platform. I won't go into that actually. That's way too close to the bone. But Rob's right. They nearly sponsored. They didn't. I won't go into it. Right. Anything else, guys? Any other questions? Ask me anything. It doesn't have to be content creator related. If you want to ask me anything tech related, I do. In fact, I could. This is turning into Marketers Reviews now, isn't it? But I do have a brand new product here, which actually, tell you what, give me 2 seconds. This is related to the business of YouTube, and I think it's very interesting. So the Pixel Fold was launched a few weeks back now. Actually, you could buy it a little while ago in the UK, but I've been on the press list for Pixel stuff for ages, ever since not ages, but ever since the Pixel 7, I think it was. So from last year. It was a massive deal getting onto that press list because it meant I would get stuff early from Google Pixel, which is just huge. So I got the Pixel 7, 7a together, got the Pixel Watch, which was a big score. So I've got that wrong. Is that right? No, 7. Yeah, so I got the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 7 Pro last year and the Pixel Watch. And then this year, earlier on, I got the Pixel 7a. And then I was aware, obviously, that we had the Pixel tablet and also the Pixel Fold incoming, but everything had gone very quiet from a press perspective. And immediately, I just assumed that I'd been swiped off and they'd forgotten about me. But then it became clear that that was the case with everyone, actually. And I won't say too much more because I don't want to ruin that relationship. But for whatever reason, these devices have come a little bit late to us. And that happened with the Pixel tablet. Thankfully, that hasn't really damaged the content, really. I think it reveals really that you don't have to get stuff on launch day because people take time to make the decision. And when something is launched and it has an embargo, you suddenly get 50,000 YouTube video reviews about it, which are all the same. And it's just too much to kind of contend with. So it's nice to take your time. But anyway, I'm waffling now. But the reason I went over there is because I received the Pixel Fold finally this week. And if there's any brand who knows how to do the kind of creator relationship, kind of press, impress the press, PR stuff, it's Google. So if you buy a Pixel tablet, it will just come in a normal Pixel Fold. It will come in a normal Pixel Fold box, which looks like a normal retail packaging, nothing particularly special. But if you are a member of the press or a creator like myself who gets them early, they always go out of their way. So this is what arrived in fact, let me just very quickly do something. You didn't see this. Oh, hang on, you can see it. Bear with me. Here's one I made earlier. What's that from? Any UK viewers? Here's one I made earlier. What's that from? Nice little reference for you there. So this is what came in the post yesterday. This is what I was waiting for. And what you do, you place this down. Can you just see that? But you open this up, and there is your Pixel Fold, lovingly displayed on this little kind of plinth. And then if you open this little drawer here, that's the box. So make sure it doesn't fall out. The box is in there. Really lovely way of presenting it. Now, the reason they do this isn't because they love me and just think I'm like a member of their family. They do it because they want me to then reveal this on a unboxing video. It's very clever. Lots of other smaller brands do the same thing now. So if you get a new case from, I don't know, Keisaku or Banks, a new headphone stand from Banks, they will send it in a very nice box that it has something interesting about the way you open it, because they know that will prompt you to do a quick YouTube short or a TikTok video about it. Very smart marketing, and it does work. It definitely works because I did the short form stuff for this morning, and it's done really well, particularly on TikTok. I think the video that I posted this morning has had about 6,000 or 7,000 views on TikTok, and it's doing pretty well on the other platforms as well. So the full review will happen next week, obviously. But so I've got the Pixel Fold. This is a review unit. It's not pre-production. It is if you buy it's a bit smudged. If you buy one, it will be the same one as this. It's a retail version. But interestingly, I do get to keep it as well. So Pixel never ask for anything back. They send this stuff to you as though it's yours. They want you to keep it and use it as much as possible and feature it in as many videos and as many pieces of content as possible. Again, very smart, very expensive. Not every brand can afford that. And even Google, I think this year have pulled back a little bit on how much they're doing this. I don't think quite as many people have had the Pixel Fold or the Pixel tablet. But if you do have the resources and the funds that Google has, it makes sense massively. So yeah, I don't know why I started talking about the Pixel Fold. I was running out of things to talk about, and then I thought, well, actually, that's related to the behind the scenes YouTube stuff. So there you go. Rob, can't you just get your minions to cross post to all places? Threads is quite hot right now, so quite a lot of opportunity to get in front of more eyeballs. I'm sure it is, Rob. Yeah, I could do that. I could, I suppose. Although the way that I use Twitter, it wouldn't quite work because it's very spur of the moment, very ad hoc. It would work. So for instance, publishing short form content across multiple channels works brilliantly because it's all created ahead of time. I just give it all to someone and they get on with it. This sort of stuff, because of the way that I use Twitter, which is very conversational, very much, that's sparked an idea, now I'll post about it, whatever. I'd have to come up with a process for sending that stuff to my VA who does the posting, the cross posting for video, and get them to do that. It already feels like a faff, to be honest. And also you've got to keep an eye on the engagement. And that's the other thing with, I keep getting on this soapbox, don't I? That's the other thing with these social networks. It's not just the posting. In fact, the posting is possibly the easy part. The hardest part of dealing with multiple social networks as someone who has a relatively sizable audience is the incoming stuff. So it's the likes, it's the comments, it's the DMs. DMs are particularly tricky to deal with because 9 times out of 10, a DM is something you probably don't want to read. 1 time out of 10, it's potentially a brand reaching out, asking if you want to work with them. You can miss a lot of stuff. I'm sure I've missed stuff in the past because the sheer volume of incoming stuff. And if you put on top of that YouTube comments, which are just ridiculous anyway, in a great way, but just the volume of them, it's crazy. TikTok is another one. The amount of engagement you get from TikTok in terms of likes and comments and things is just biblical. So putting another one in the mix, I'm gonna have to sign up to Threads, aren't I? It's gonna happen. Rob's kind of pushing it again. You don't work for Threads, do you, Rob? Work for Threads isn't. It's not their subsidiary, is it? That's just the name of the product. It's gaining millions of users a day, 30 million on day one, apparently. It's gonna though, isn't it? It's Facebook. It's Twitter. Is people think Twitter's falling apart. They've done this at the right time. Again, super smart, but still relatively small, so probably easy to go viral through lack of other content currently. I'll check it out. I'll sign up after this, I promise. Mike, Blue Peter. It was Blue Peter. Yeah, here's one I made earlier. Is Blue Peter. I'm not going to sit here and make Tracy Island, though. You'll be glad to hear. That's a brilliant little reference there for all the UK people, if you remember that. But US folk will have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you don't, actually, just Google Blue Peter, Tracy Island. It's a big thing in our lives. If you're of a certain age, I think that is all the questions, guys. Any other questions actually on this kind of? I can't say too much about it, obviously, but the whole Google Pixel relationship thing. I don't know if that's interesting. If you've got any questions on that before I head off, but it's they're a great brand to work with. Although I don't work with them directly. I work with them through an agency, which is quite often the case with these big ones. They're lovely people to work with, and yeah, long may it continue. Hopefully. Right, I'm going to sign off now, guys, because I think the questions are finished. And as always, thank you for joining me. It's again, I will start thinking about when to do these lives. We've had a few more people join. Oh, Mike, one last question from Mike. Do they pay you as well as give you the products? No. So Google don't pay me. I don't know if they pay other people. If you ever watch a review on YouTube, or you see an Instagram reel or a post, etc. If that creator has been paid on YouTube, they should have a tick, a little note at the start that says includes paid promotion. If it's a TikTok or an Instagram post, they should put hashtag ad in there. There should be something very obvious where they've classed it as an ad. But typically, Google are a bit like Apple. They won't pay people to do this stuff. Other brands do, but no. So I don't get any money for this, but I do get a very expensive phone, completely free of charge. Normally ahead of time. Didn't quite happen with this one, but and that's invaluable. Again, going back to that growth content, that's far more valuable for growth content than being paid a bit of money for doing it. Good question then, Mike, and thanks for all the questions, guys. I will be back next week. I think basically these lives are scheduled ahead of time. My girlfriend does it for me. That's one of her jobs that she's very good at doing, much better than me. But we may tweak a few of them possibly just to see if we can get a few more people in. But thanks so much for giving me your time. Thanks for the questions. They always make these worthwhile, because the bit at the start is me just talking about semi-interesting stuff. The best stuff comes out of the questions. So thank you as always. And if you haven't checked out the Substack newsletter, give it a click. And if you've enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up, particularly if you're watching this in the future, because these videos do pretty well, actually, given the size of the channel, as they become regular videos. So thank you to you as well for watching this. And yeah, if you fancy subscribing, go for it. And I'm going to click end broadcast now. And again, a bit like starting a live broadcast, I never really know when it finishes. So if I don't know, swear or do something strange at the end, I don't do anything strange. I'm going to stop talking now. I'm just going to click end broadcast, and thank you again. Have fantastic weekends, guys. Cheers.